Ray with Get Real Ray, a place and space for life and business tips from this creative soul to hopefully inspire you on your journey, or at the very least provide you with some laughs. And so let's get real about having that video call with your potential house sitter. So this video is part of a little series that I'm doing for homeowners who are getting started on trusted house sitters. And I have not experienced any of the other house sitting sites, but I imagine some of these things would apply, some of my tips would apply to these other sites as well. With that being said, if you haven't seen my first video on how to set yourselves up for success and making sure you get the right sitter, then definitely go ahead and watch that video first. Now, we are talking about having that video call, and we know that you will want to have asked questions about how long the sitter has been doing things on trusted house sitters, or at least house sitting, what their experiences. We know that you will want to have read through their profile to get an understanding of what this person is all about, to definitely read over their past reviews and to make sure that people have been happy with their experience, to not really not consider someone just because they have less than 5 stars in one area. It could be that communication with the other person wasn't where it needed to be, or maybe the house sitter has learned from that experience and upped their game from that last experience, or maybe the homeowner's expectations just weren't realistic. I mean, that is definitely a thing too. So now what you want to think about is, let's just kind of focus on pets, right? So get to understand what someone's day is going to look like. It can be very tempting to want to kind of rush the call and be like, well, you don't look crazy, so you get the job. But take a moment. Think about it not as, I'm looking for someone to body to temporarily fill this position, okay? You are not the person who is doing the hiring. Excuse me. You are not the person who is doing the hiring for a catering event and you just need a body to put silverware on the table. This is not what is happening. Think of it more along the lines of, this is someone that I want to be a lifelong friend, or this is someone that I'm talking to because I want to know if they are likable enough to be supportive at my wedding or something, right? I know you wouldn't really invite a stranger to come be supportive at your wedding, but think of it as a long-term relationship and investment, not a short-term, I just need someone with a pulse. Okay, so with that being said, you want to be able to get an understanding of their philosophy on whatever your care needs are, okay? So if you have pets, then you want to get an understanding of what their day is like, and how do they feel about possibly having to walk a dog when it's cold outside, or if they're okay with the dog getting in bed, right? I mean, you could have a sitter who has an amazing profile and they seem really nice. You've read the reviews, everything looks good, and you're talking to them and you say, well, sometimes Muffins likes to get in the bed and snuggle up while watching TV. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. I don't actually like animals in the bed with me. Okay, right? And so you have, oh, okay, that's no problem. Muffins can sleep in his crate. Great, thank you so much. Does Muffins get on the furniture? Okay, and so then you have to think about, okay, so is this sitter gonna be okay if Muffins, who has lived in this home all of Muffin's little life, are they gonna be okay with Muffins getting on the furniture, getting in the bed? If Muffins is a barker, and this person seems uneasy with loud noise, is it gonna work? So you just really wanna get a sense of their personality and to find out whether they're okay with what your needs are. If this is someone who maybe, I kind of want to say maybe they come across as someone who parties a lot, or maybe not even parties a lot, maybe is just dresses in a manner that looks like it may take a lot of time to put that look together. And you know, your dogs are like out there rolling in the mud. They come home and sometimes they're like muddy footprints all over the house. Is it going to be a good match? Maybe. You know, if this person's never been to your neck of the woods and you know, oof, sometimes there's power outages, sometimes it's super rainy and just gross outside. You know, you could ask people like, so have you been to this area before? No. It gets a lot of rain that time of year and some people get really sad. How do you feel about that? Have you considered that? Are you comfortable with that? Right? And just go, I'm fine. Find out a little bit more about their background. You know, where have they lived? Where do they live? Especially if it's a long sit. It's a short sit. It's like whatever, a week, a weekend, then maybe they really are fine and they'll be fine. But if it's a month or 2 months, then that, oh, I'm fine, would not be enough to convince me that this is a good match. And I would really want to just kind of ask more questions, because if it was someone, say, who has lived their entire life in a very hot area and they really want to see snow and that's why they want your house sit, and they've never been in like responsible for maintaining a home in a snowy climate, then they might not be fine with the fact that you're going to be wearing a sweater around the house, or it's just going to be cold in the house, even when the heater is on, or the fact that they can't, maybe, you know, you find, oh, okay, okay, cool. Do you cook? Or actually, I just ordered takeout, or I don't really cook. I'm not much of a cooker. I often do Uber Eats. Does Uber Eats come to your snowy area? Is this person going to survive without having food easily delivered to them? Because if there's a snowstorm, there's not a lot of Uber Eats drivers out there looking to make some cash in a snowstorm. I used to drive for the Uber, and I gotta tell you, driving through the snowstorms ain't always easy and ain't always worth it. So, especially if you live in a food desert where a good grocery store is like 30 minutes away, this is something that you want to make sure that potential sitter is aware of and is comfortable with. Now, one thing that I truly love is when homeowners say, oh, if you don't have a car, you can use ours. I think that is just great. I try not to use anyone else's car, frankly. But if this is something you have to offer sitters, then let them know. Think to yourself, what am I comfortable with? What can make this person's journey easier? What can make my journey easier? So the fact that they have zero snow experience might not be a total deal breaker, but it's definitely something to consider. And whether or not they have their own vehicle and cook, can not be deal breakers, but are things to consider. I mean, some locations, right? If you're like, oh, I live in New York City and this person says they don't cook, that's not a problem, because they're in New York and they're going to be able to get food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not a problem, right? But if you were living in, I want to say like Westport, Connecticut, and this person says, no, I don't cook, and I don't have a car, and I'm going to be there for several weeks. You can just ask them like, okay, do you know how you would get groceries? Maybe you need your car, right? I wouldn't be able to leave my car. I could certainly pick you up when, you know, from the train station. But in terms of you being here, do you know how you get groceries, right? and they might have a plan. I did do a house sit where the homeowner was like, oh, you have to have a car. You have to, because you just can't, the grocery store's too far away. You can't live here without a car. And I was like, okay, well, I looked it up and I think I'll be okay. And for that particular house sit, I didn't have my car the first time I sat for them. The next time I did have my car. And I told them, like, I'm not going to have my car the first time, but it's only a couple days. But the next time I come out for you, it will be 3 weeks. I will have my car. Rest assured, I will have my car. And for that particular sit, I didn't really need my car. In terms of just kind of getting out and doing stuff, having a car was useful. Was there a bus line nearby? Absolutely. I could have taken the bus. I did take the bus on more than one occasion. Was it fun? No. But it did exist, right? So sometimes just the way you're used to living doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only way to get around your area. But I have been in homes, and actually at that house, the first time I was there, I had groceries delivered through Amazon Fresh. However, I have been in homes where they said, yeah, past sitter was really upset because they didn't realize that the grocery store isn't nearby at all. We tried to warn them, but I guess they just didn't really think about it. And it was really difficult for them. I'm like, I got my car, no problem. And they were absolutely right. There was not a grocery, like I had to get on the highway and drive for quite some time to get to a grocery store, but the better grocery store was an even further drive out. And so that was definitely experience, but I knew what I was getting into. And so with that being said, if you have a sitter and don't be afraid to ask what their plan is if you feel that there may be a reason for them to have a negative experience because they didn't prepare in an ideal way, if that makes sense, okay? So for someone to be like, oh, yeah, I'll be fine. And they don't have a car, the grocery store is really far away, it's okay to be like, we just want to make sure. If you need us to order something before you arrive, we can certainly talk about that, right? And I have had homeowners be like, oh, what can we get for you? I think that's so sweet, is when they're offering to order things to make sure their home is prepared for me. And I think that's really lovely. Certainly not necessary or obligatory, especially when it's a loan sit, because I'll be there a while. And no homeowner should ever feel like they are literally paying to feed this other individual that's going to be in their home. It's really a nice gesture. But there's nothing wrong with having that conversation and just letting them know, like, oh, well, if you need any help, we have a Costco membership, and so maybe we can work something out and help you order some stuff in advance if that's something you need help with. And then you guys can work through, like, a reasonable person be like, oh, well, actually, maybe I can pick out some things and send you some money via Venmo, and then you can order them for me, and then that way I don't have to stress. It's already there, right? Just being able to have that conversation. But you want to keep it in mind that you should be able to have a conversation with the sitter you agree with to work with the same way you would with a good friend. You don't want to be in a situation where you feel like, oh, I have to step on eggshells, walk on eggshells and be very careful because this feels like I could say or do the wrong thing and then they'll be mad at me and they'll go away. Or you just don't want any of that. You want to be able to feel relaxed. And that's part of having a video call too, is, do I feel relaxed? Does this person make me feel comfortable? Do I feel comfortable talking with this person? So another thing you want to think about with a video call. Now, I have had homeowners be like, oh, where's muffins? Wait, let me get muffins over here. Muffins, come here. Look, I'm talking to Ray. Muffins. Do you want to see Ray? This is muffins. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I mean, part of me is just like, this cat does not want anything to do with me. Why are you trying to show me your cat right now? And sometimes it's, some of the dogs are like, oh, they're really excited because they hear their name. But while in the moment of thinking this is unnecessary and taking lots of time, we can just pass this up. In reality, I'm like, this is a good practice because we want to make sure I'm not like, oh yeah, your dog's cute. Yeah. We want to make sure that the person who looks great in their profile and has all these stars is not gonna actually secretly hate taking care of my kind of pet. And you might be like, that's horrible, but it's true. It's true, especially if you are new to sitting or full-time sitter. If you're new to sitting, you just kind of want to lock in your first sit to get the experience, get it over with. If you are a full-time sitter, sometimes you just have gaps in your schedule. You're like, I don't really want to do this sit, but whatever. I'm just going to take it so I can fill this gap in my schedule and not have to do the Airbnb. So having, while it may seem completely ridiculous if you're showing your animal on camera, and I do feel like it's completely ridiculous, I do think it is super smart of those homeowners who have used it as an opportunity to study my reaction. I don't really think a lot of these homeowners have bothered to do that, but I think it's really good. Study my reaction. See if I'm like, oh, so cute, or just like, yeah. Nothing. Remember, we're not face to face, okay? So you want to make sure that I'm not standoffish towards seeing your pet. It's really, really, really great way to kind of check that in advance. Okay, so we talked about how you want to make sure that you've asked what their next plan is or get some idea of your life. We've talked about how you want to make sure that you're not going to be stuck in a situation where someone's staying with you longer than necessary. And we have also looked at making sure you have an idea of how this person is going to navigate in your neck of the woods. How are they getting around, if they need to get around, or do they have some sort of grocery plan outlined if it's difficult to get groceries in your neighborhood. We also talked about how you can use that video call to get an idea of how engaged this person might be with your type of pets. So let's also think about how the potential house sitter handles emergencies. So for people who have never lived in a house, especially as an adult, they might not understand or know about things like circuit breakers and generators. There are a number of people out there who have only lived in the world of call somebody, right? Sounds like the toilet water's running. Well, I think I call the maintenance guy and he comes and checks it out, right? They might not know. Well, jiggle the handle, look in the back of the toilet to see if the little stopper got stuck or something. There are a number of people out there who have never used a gas stove. So you want to make sure that whatever your home situation is like, that this house sitter understands what that is. And if they don't have experience, are willing to learn with you, right? So if you have a house who's like, yeah, I've actually never been in a house before. I grew up in apartments, and you know that you're going to be leaving them in your home for a month or something, or even 2 weeks. You're like, oh, okay. Are you able to come the night before? I can show you around the house, the property, where all the emergency information is. If there's something major, then yes, you'll be able to call this plumber. But otherwise, there's a few like little small things that you can easily look out for. And I just want to show you around. Anything you're unsure about, you can call my next door neighbor and he'll come over and check it out. And then that also is a huge relief for the sitter because they're like, oh, okay. It sounds like you set things up so it's really hard for something to go wrong for me, right? Okay, so making sure that there's some sort of experience or some sort of plan in place so that the house sitter is okay with whatever your home environment is. Another thing that you want to keep in mind when you're on that phone call is travel times. I could kick myself because I went through a phone call with a homeowner. We had a really good time chatting. So nice. And I sent her a message right after the call. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask her about her travel times. And I sent her a message and I didn't hear back. I didn't hear back for a week. And she, in her mind, she was just like, oh yeah, we're all set, right? And I was kind of hoping we were set, but I hadn't heard back. I think I sent her actually more than one message. I think it was like a text and a message through the app. And so anyway, a week later, I hear back from her. It's like, oh, sorry, just saw your message, and yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Or, oh, and we have to leave at really early, like 8 a.m. So can you be here at 7? I was like, no, I cannot. Now in that particular case, I actually had to be working at 7 a.m. So that was not okay. And I knew that I couldn't be there the night before, nor did she offer, but I was like, sorry, it's not gonna work out because I can't be there at that time. And that was that, right? Now, of course, if you know you have a space that they can stay in the night before if need be, then little things like that, like, oh yes, our flight departs at 6 a.m. It's kind of unreasonable to ask for a house sitter to be at your house at 5 a.m. or 5:30 when you know you have to, a flight leaves at 6, so it'd be even earlier, right? You don't want to be unreasonable. Now, I have had homeowners say, hey, my flight leaves really early, but you don't have to be there at that time, okay? If you could just come before noon, that would be wonderful. Just let me know about what time you think you'll be here. And that's easy to work with, right? Oh, okay, not a problem, yeah. Or our flight leaves really early. We got to leave the house at 3 a.m. Would you want to come the night before and spend the night in the guest room? This way you don't have to get up early. We don't have to, like, worry about you or anything. So yeah, that's fine. So knowing those travel times can be a make or break, right? And sometimes if I know my schedule is a little tight, then I will mention in my intro letter, hey, I am very interested in your house set. However, I know that my flight doesn't arrive till, or I would not be able to be at your home until X time. If this is something that works for you, I would love to jump on that call. So that way they can just decide right then and there, like, oh no, she can't get here to 7 p.m. We need somebody at 8 a.m. Oh, it's not gonna work. And then it can decline me and then leaving a spot open for other applicants, okay? However, if that hasn't been reviewed beforehand, make sure you review it in that conversation, that video conversation. Lay out the logistics. So important. If you know that this potential sitter is coming to explore the area and they've never been to the area before, you can totally ask them if they would like to take the pet out with them, or if they would prefer to travel about the city on their own, right? If it's a dog, I've certainly seen sitters say, oh yeah, it was so great because the homeowner got special needs vest for their dog, so I can take their dog on buses and travel the city with their dog. It was so great. I am not a fan of saying your pet is special needs if they are not special needs. I think this does a disservice to those pets who are special needs. I think it does a huge disservice to people who have a disability that requires them to have that pet with them. I certainly know people who've been like, well, I don't want to pay for my dog to be in the undercarriage of the airplane, so I'm just going to say it's a, therapy pet. Meanwhile, other people are being inconvenienced because you just didn't want to do this other thing for your pet. So I'm really not a fan of that. However, I love traveling with pets. I love saying to the dog, come on, get in my car. We're going to go to the beach or we're going to go take a hike. The pets usually love it too. They are super excited to go ahead and hit the road. I love going on the road with pets. The pets are usually super excited and ready to hit the road and explore something new and sniff something new. It is so, so much fun. However, I let families know up front, like, oh, is your pet okay with going in cars or going on a trip? And I actually only once did I have someone say, actually, 2 pit bulls, I don't really want to worry about them getting into a fight with another dog, so just keep them on the property. That would be my preference. And, you know, you can leave them home alone. That's fine. I'm like, okay, done and done. I just have to remember, don't take her dogs out. But that's understandable. She's got 2 pit bulls, and pit bulls have a bad rap. And so she doesn't want to worry about her dogs, you know, getting into a situation where then there's like lawsuits or medical bills or anything of that nature. Totally fine, respect, not an issue at all. So just knowing whether or not that house sitter wants to travel the city with your pet or not, right? I mean, sometimes you're like, yeah, I don't mind, but I'm also really looking forward to going to see XYZ, because there's a lot of places where the sitter can't take the pet. You want to go into a museum, you can't take the pet inside the museum. That's not happening. And so knowing that they have that opportunity to explore the city without the pet being with them is something that's very useful to know for them and useful for you too, so that you can realistically understand how much time that pet sitter will be in your home. I mean, some people say, hey, we're retired, there's always someone home, and so we're really ideally looking for a sitter who will be around the house a lot. As much as that can be a little bit of a bummer for sitters, it's understandable, right? It's understandable because the pet's just used to having somebody there. And, you know, that kind of sit might be ideal for a solo sitter who works from home, like myself, or maybe a couple or like 2 friends, right? Where it's like, okay, well, one of us will always be around. The other person's, you know, oh, I'm going to go to this museum today. Why don't you hang here? And then when I come back, I think you said you want to go to that restaurant, so I'll just come back and I'll hang with the pet and then you go. I think it's a little tag team. If you are in an area where it is like more than an hour away from all the happenings in life, and you know your pet can't be alone for more than 4 hours. There's like little ways to get around. Okay, so lastly, find out if your sitter is planning on having any guests. I have not had a guest as of yet. I really appreciate when homeowners let me know I can have guests. I feel a little, I don't know why, I feel a little awkward asking about it. I'm trying to get better at this. But especially if it's a long house sit, if it's a weekend, I should not have to have any guests. Just no and all the no's, okay? If I need to see my boyfriend, I can make arrangements in that little 4-hour, 6-hour window of whenever the bathroom tolerance is for this pet. Otherwise, I should not have guests over for a short sit. Now, a longer sit, it is really nice for sitters to know whether or not they can have a friend or a family member stop by. Now, I have seen in welcome guides, no parties ever of any sort. No. And I always think to myself, what happens in your home? Like, did you come home and find solo cups in your kid's bedroom or something? Cigarettes next to the goldfish tank? What is going on? Okay, I don't know why it was a goldfish tank. I should have just said fish tank. But anyway, you do want to make sure that you are letting someone in your home that's not going to throw any kind of crazy parties. That's just not my lifestyle. But keeping in mind the age of your sitter as well, right? If you know that you don't really want other people in your home, then just let them know. This is our first time on Trusted House Sitters, and we are really excited about the idea of, working with you. I understand this is a long house sit, and we do have a no guest policy. Would that be something that would work for you? we just feel more comfortable knowing that the people that are in our home are the people that we know and we've met you, right? We wouldn't really want to have to, go through the process of vetting your friends or anything like that. So would you be okay with a long house sit, but knowing that you wouldn't be able to have guests in the home? Just lay it out for them, right? And they might be like, yeah. I'm like, no. If it's an area where they have friends there, they're like, oh, it's not a problem. Actually, my friend doesn't live far away. I can just go over to her house for dinner. Done. Right? And it also kind of puts in line that expectation of whether or not the boyfriend can go or the girlfriend can come by. I had one person tell me of a horror story where they agreed to a sitter. The sitter then later asked, can my boyfriend come over? And the person was like, yeah, whatever, sure, that's fine. And then later came back to find that like the bed was broken or something because the bed couldn't support the two individuals, whatever, right? And so with that being said, that all could have been avoided had the homeowner asked about guests beforehand. Set the expectation beforehand. Yeah. If you're worried about someone having a party in your house, just let them know beforehand, no parties in my house. Done and done. And then that way you're not worried about it. You can just focus on enjoying your vacation. And you remember, you are not going into this just to get someone to take care of your pet or water your plant and just to get this checked off. You're going in this to make a connection. Ideally, a lifelong connection. I hope you found these tips helpful. If you are curious of things you can do to help ensure that your sitter has a very smooth stay, then check out this next video.